this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make a very easy beaded bangle on wire bracelet. So this is what they turn out like. I used the amber and aqua and the sapphire and champagne treasure bag beads. However, you can use any beads that you would like. This technique works with anything. So you can definitely make these bangles in all different styles and colors and bead types. It'll work out fine. So this is what they look like. This is what it looks like on the wrist here. Really cute. And you can just open and close them very easily like this. Now, if they distort a little bit as you put them on and take them off, you can reshape them and make them look good again quite easily. So they are easy to wear and easy to reshape. If you bump one hard or you mangle it while you're trying to put it on or something, you can reshape them very easily. You can make a whole bunch of these in no time. They move very quickly and they're really easy to do. So let's go ahead and look and see what it takes to make this particular project. Okay, for this project today, we will be using 18 gauge wire. Now you can use 20 gauge. I tried it with 20 gauge. However, they're just a little too flimsy. Do not keep their shape quite as well once you finish the bangle. So I am using 18 gauge. This is Wire Elements and it's by Bead Smith. You can use any 18 gauge wire you want as long as it's a soft wire and not a real hard wire. So I have cut 16 inches of my 20 gauge or my 18 gauge wire. Then we're going to be using some barrel beads and some flower beads. Now you can use any beads you want with this. It is a technique that will work with whatever beads you want to use. These are about 11 by 8 millimeters. So 11 long, 8 wide, and then I have these little flower beads. You get 6 of each type of bead in your treasure bags. Now this is the one that was in the amber and aqua treasure bag, and these are the ones that were in the sapphire. And you can use any bead caps you want on this. I'm using the flower beads as a bead cap for this. So you can use any bead caps you want. And I'm going to be using some 8/0 seed beads. Now you want to use Toho 8/0s because they fit on the wire fine. Toho has a bigger hole than a lot of other brands. So 8/0 Tohos work great. If you're using another brand, you may have to go to 6/0s or something like that. Just so that you're aware of that. So I'm using 6 barrel beads, 6 flower beads, and some 8/0 seed beads and 16 inches of wire. So you'll need, I'm going to use some baling pliers. You do not have to have, or these are coiling also, you do not have to have these. You can use something round like a pencil to make our ending circle here on the end of the bracelet. So you want something about the width of a pencil, a small one, not a big old fat guy. And then you're going to need some flat nose pliers, some chain nose pliers. I'm going to use these, and a flush cutter. And having some nylon nose pliers is going to help a lot too. So you're going to need these things, and a ruler is going to be very helpful too. So gather your things together and let's get started. Okay, so once you have cut your 16 inches of 18 gauge wire, then you're just going to want to take a nylon nose plier or your fingers or whatever and just straighten your wire out the best you can. A small curve in it still is fine, but you do not want to have any bends or kinks or hills or valleys or anything like that in it. You just want it to be pretty straight, and like I said, being bowed somewhat is fine. Just make sure the wire itself doesn't have any areas that will stop your beads from sliding down. Then take one end and measure about 2 inches and just hold on to that. And I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers and I'm just going to place it right at that 2-inch mark. And then I am going to bend the short length of wire directly over the top of these pliers, just like this. Just bend it straight over. And this is what you should have, just like this. Now I'm going to kind of straighten that out a little bit and make sure that this part looks nice and neat. It isn't kinked or anything weird like that. So this is basically what I have. Now this wants to go this way, and that's okay because I'm going to take this about 1 inch down. So let me measure it again. So from the top of the fold here, about 1 inch down, I am going to just bend this wire straight out, just like this. So now I've got something that looks like this. Now I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers. I'm going to turn my wire this way so that the part that's sticking out is towards me, just because holding on to it in your plier towards you gives you a little bit better grip on it. And then you're going to take that extra piece and you're just going to fold it straight over the long piece here. And you're going to continue turning it. You can use some pliers if you need to, but I'm just going to use my fingers and just turn this around about 3, maybe 4 times if you can get 4 on there, just like this. Then I'm going to grab my flush cutters and I'm going to cut this down. And then I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers and I am just going to tuck in that end so that it's not pokey, just like that. And this is what I have. Now I can make this a little prettier. I can squeeze it in a little bit tighter. Just do it gently because you can distort it pretty badly. So I'm just going to just put it in a little bit like that. I really don't want it to be real close together because I kind of like it flared. I kind of like the way that looks. And then I'm going to grab my bench block. And you don't have to do this part, but I kind of like to give it a little bit of a hardening and flatten it a little just to make it look a little nicer. So I'm just placing it on the edge of my bench block and making sure that the part that I have coiled is off the bench block. And I'm just going to tap it just a few times, turn it over and tap it again. This will work hard in it and it kind of gives it that nice little hammered look there. Then I am going to move that aside and just straighten out my wire so that this wire that's coming, the long part, not the part that's been over, is nice and straight with the long length of wire. So I'm just going to kind of straighten that out somewhat like this. Now I'm going to start beading. So I'm going to use, excuse me, 8/0 seed beads, and I'm going to pick up 12 of them. Now, if you want a longer or a shorter bracelet, mine will turn out to fit about a 7 to 7.5 inch wrist. If you want to have a smaller bracelet, then this is the part that you can put less on. Of course, if you're not using the same beads in the same order I'm using, you'll just have to figure out how many will work for you, and we'll discuss that a little further. But on the end here, for this design I'm doing, this is what's going to determine my length because my pattern is set. So in the middle where I'm going to put my beads. So I'm going to put on 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, come on, 9, 10, 11, 12. 8/0 seed beads should slide over fine. There might be a few that argue with you, just toss them aside and pick up a different one. But here, if you do want a shorter bracelet and you're making the pattern I'm making, then maybe go 9 beads instead of 12. And then we're going to pick up one of our flower beads, and from the back side of the flower here, so there's the open side and there's the narrow side, we're going to slide the narrow side onto the wire. And then we're going to put on one of our barrel beads. And I'll back off just a little more here. And then we're going to pick up another flower bead. And from the flower side now, from the wide side, we're going to put it on the wire and slide it down. So you have something that looks like this. Then we're going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead. And now I'm going to pick up another flower and I'm going to put it on the wire from the narrow side here. And then another barrel bead. Now I'm going to put on 4 beads, 4 barrel beads, counting this one. So I'm going to put on a barrel bead and then 8-0, barrel bead, 8-0, barrel bead, 8-0, and a barrel bead. Now, when you're beading, you want to bead, if you're making like a medium-sized bracelet, you'll want to bead about 6.5, 6 3/4 inches of beads from this point over, not counting this. So you'll count right here and you'll put up about 6 3/4 inches of beads if you're using something different than I am, or 6.5. I'll measure this to make sure and let you know. Now we're going to drop on another flower bead from the narrow side. We're going to put on another barrel bead. And let's see, nope, I messed up. So we're going to take those off and we're going to put a flower bead from the fat side so that these 4 beads are encased with a bead on either side. You can use bead caps, metal bead caps, just fine, or don't put any of them on there, that's fine too, however you want to do it. But I'm using them kind of as a bead cap, so any bead cap will work. And then I'm going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead. And then I'm going to pick up another one of my flower beads from the narrow side, put it on, and a barrel bead, and another flower from the wide side, like this. So this is what I have now. And then I'm going to pick up 12 more 8-0 seed beads. Nine, 10, 11, 12. So let me count them to make sure. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Oop, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So I had an extra one there. Now this is what I have. I'm just going to kind of straighten it out some. And then I am going to grab my flat nose pliers. And you want a broad flat nose plier because this is what we're going to use to give us a little space to wrap our wire around to secure the end. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try to put it to where this end is flat and then bend this end straight so that the wire stays nice and flat. But a lot of times it doesn't and we'll have to adjust it after we're done. But I'm going to put it right at the end of the 8-0 seed beads and then I'm going to bend my wire straight up, just like this. Now this gives me a space between my beads and the bend. And now I'm going to grab my baling pliers. And you can use anything round you want. I am going to make my circle, I think I'm going to make it this size here. So if you want to use something else round, you're going to place that round thing right above the bend here. So your beads are down here, you have this bend this way, you're going to place it here and then wrap your wire around it. For here, I'm going to place my baling pliers right to where the gauge that I want, right here, the size I want, is on the outside of my wire. And then I'm going to start to bend my wire all the way around. Once I get it around 3/4 of the way, I'm going to kind of force my wrist forward a little bit just to kind of move the circle I'm making over to the center of the wire. And then I'm going to open my pliers and bring the wire all the way around, just like this. Once I have done that, then I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers and I'm going to hold on to this circle right above where the wires cross here. I'm going to position the long wire so that it's basically the same angle as my plier, and I'm going to start turning. I'm going to turn it with my hands, and I'm just going to make sure I coil straight down, one coil underneath the next, until my beads stop sliding around. So I'll be right on top of those, or right to the point to where those 8/0 seed beads start. So I'm just going to continue turning right here. Now my beads aren't sliding around anymore, so I'm going to start bringing my wire up. Now this can be as neat or as messy as you would like it to be. I'm going to just start bringing it back over the top of my existing coil, and I'm going to turn it this way and just start turning it back up, because I want to get all the way up to the base of my circle here, because the base of my circle isn't perfect. So I'm just going to wrap right up to the top of it, just like this. And like I said, you can make it as neat or as messy as you would like. It doesn't truly matter. And now that I have wrapped it, and this is basically what it looks like. So it's kind of a messy wrap. I've made a couple of them that are a little bit neater wrap. It just kind of depends on the way my wire goes on. I'm not really too particular with it. And then I'm going to trim right in the middle here. So I'm going to lift this a little bit. I'm going to trim right here in the middle, because I can then kind of tuck this piece down into the circle there and get it to where it's not sticking out. So it's kind of tucked down in there in my wrap. And then I can straighten out my little circle like this. And now I can work on shaping my bracelet. So you will see my circle is kind of up and down, and this part is kind of straight. So I'm going to readjust that. But first I'm going to establish my shape of my bracelet. Now you can wrap this around anything round that you would like, a jar or whatever. I have a bracelet mandrel and it's oval shaped. So I'm going to wrap it around, and mine's going to be a little oval shaped. But then I can also adjust the back part, because with these oval shaped ones it'll turn out kind of funny looking. So I'm just going to wrap it around, take it off, and now see the back of mine is kind of weird. So what I will do is I will just shape it with my fingers just like this. Now this little guy, he's flat against the bead mat. I need him to be up and down. So I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers and I'm going to adjust it to where it is up and down now, like this. So that when I make my hook, it'll go into the circle properly. I'm going to bring the circle down a little bit so that my hook will slide into it better. And then I'm going to adjust this just a little bit more. And I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, and about not quite halfway down from the tip of the curve here, right about here, I'm going to roll this over my plier just like that. So this is what I have, and I think I'm going to roll it even a little bit more. So I'm just going to kind of push on that end, and then at the very end here I'm just going to roll it the other direction, so that I get a hook like this. And then I'm going to doctor him up a little, bring him down some so that he'll work better, and adjust my bracelet so it looks pretty. You can make it whatever shape you want, and then I can slide this together and work on it a little bit more and get my shape nice. And then I can put it back on my mandrel and just kind of push it down gently and get the shape like that. Okay. Very simple, very fast, very easy to do, and you can make a whole bunch of these in just a couple hours. So now I want to make sure that this is going to actually work, and it doesn't really want to work right. So I'm going to take it off of here, and I'm going to adjust this guy a little bit more. So I'm going to come down in here and bend him down a little that way, and then bend him back up this way, and see if that helps. Yeah, that helps. So sometimes you just have to play with it a little bit until the little hook works really well. So, and the way that I wrap this up a little higher, it's kind of impeding it a little bit, but it's not too terrible. So, and I'm not unhappy with it. It's okay. Here's another one I made, so you can see my hook is a little bit different shaped. Every time I make them, they're a little bit different. And this guy, I might have to adjust him a little too. No, actually he works fine. You want it to stay. You don't want it to flop open all the time, but that's what that looks like. Now I am going to, this is the aqua one and this is the sapphire one. I am going to go off camera, put these on, come back and show you what they look like, and we'll call it good. Okay, so here's what they look like. Here's my little hooks. Here's the front. And when you want to take them off and put them on, you just have to push the hook out just like this. Gently take it off your wrist because you don't want to distort it terribly. You can readjust it pretty easily. They keep their shape pretty well, but if you take it off and put it on and bend it all over the place, then of course it's going to bend a little, but you can readjust it so that it looks nice again. So you can just pop them on and off pretty easy and readjust. This particular one I'm going to show you, I've left it, I know that it's difficult to manipulate, and I've left it that way so that I can show you what it needs. So what it is this portion here is a little bit too long to slide in and out real easily. See, it just doesn't want to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this and I'm going to just kind of push it around so that I'm in essence closing it and moving my bend down further towards the beads on the piece, and then I can just open it back up like this and curl that back up. And now it's a shorter distance for it to travel, and it'll go on there much nicer. So you may need to adjust your hooks a little bit just so that they work really well. And once you've got them adjusted, it should be fairly easy to put on and take off. Now you want a little bit of resistance like this so that it stays on once it's on your wrist, but you don't want it to be really difficult to take off and put on. So you'll just adjust it until it works out well for you. So that's what those look like. I think they turned out really pretty. And like I said, you can get creative, do all kinds of different beads on here and make yourself some stackables or whatever you'd like. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please consider subscribing, maybe hitting that notification bell so that we can make another piece together. Bye-bye.